Happy Spook Month. To celebrate this month of cheap decorations and eating garbage, I thought it'd be kinda fun to take a look at the franchise that contains both of those traits. Five Nights at Freddy's. Look, these days this franchise gets a bad rep for the cliche indie horror vibe that it has, but to be honest, that cliche vibe is one of the things I love most about this series. I love FNaF, so today, let's take a look at it. And I need to get something out of the way right off the bat. We ain't dealing with lore. I'll maybe talk about the singular presented stories of the game, but I am not talking about all the twists and turns that this storyline has. So sorry to disappoint, but I'm not spending 15 minutes talking about the man behind the slaughter. So with that out of the way, FNaF 1 anybody? This is it. This is the game that led to the internet being absolutely destroyed during the mid to late 2010s. The original Five Nights at Freddy's. And after playing some of the later games in the series, this one really feels like it's missing something. It's just so simple, like, sometimes to a genuine fault. The early nights 1 to 3, are just not that exciting to be honest. However, before we get to that, we should probably talk about the game in general. FNaF 1 focuses around a nighttime security guard working the graveyard shift at a child's restaurant called Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. Was using the term graveyard shift a little bit too on the nose? Yeah, this place is ghosty as fuck. The 4 animatronic characters of this restaurant are possessed by the souls of the dead children murdered in its walls. These animatronics then try to come kill the security guard. However, it would be a pretty shitty game if you couldn't stop this from happening. Luckily, you can, most of the time. You got a set of cameras for watching where these bastards are, and 2 doors to slam shut if Bonnie comes around asking if you want some Dead Girl Girl Guide cookies. Both the cameras and the doors take power, however, in addition to the lights you need to see outside the doors. And if you run out of the power, well, then I hope you got healthcare. Now, earlier I mentioned that these earlier nights are just kind of boring, and yeah. But that's less of an issue than you'd think, because in my opinion, this is the best atmosphere presented in the entire franchise. The sense of isolation and loneliness is nailed here, and it really makes you feel powerless, which is exactly what a good horror game should do. Also, your only defenses can be taken away if you aren't careful, so it really makes you think twice before doing anything that could waste power. And as the nights progress, things do get more interesting. Characters like Foxy and Freddy become more of a threat. Freddy only becomes active on night 3. Basically, Freddy doesn't appear at the doors, but instead on the cameras. Once he's at the camera right beside your door, if you open the cameras without that right door closed, he will get into the office and eventually kill you. And Foxy will crawl out from behind his curtain as the cameras are turned off, so to stop this, you need to flip up the cameras. Issue, this puts you in danger of Freddy, and takes power. And then Bonnie and Chica just appear at the doors. If you see them, shit the door. Wait, nope, that's a typo, don't do that. If you see them, shut the door. Plain and simple. The 4 characters are a good balance of threats, and as the nights progress, they get harder and harder. Once you beat Night 5 of the game, you unlock Night 6. This is where this game is at its best, in my opinion. Night 6 is the hardest standard night of the game, but it really tests you, and for me, the challenge is really fun. Beating Night 6 also gives you a great reward. Custom Night. This mode allows you to control the difficulty of each individual animatronic, from level 0 to level 20. It's a great reward, and beating 420 mode is the only way to achieve true 100% completion in this game. Overall, that's all I can really say about FNaF 1. It's a really simple game at the end of the day, but it planted every seed it needed. While definitely not my favorite, it does deserve respect for being such a well-designed indie game. If you like FNaF or not, you gotta admit, this is a really smart game. Anyways, on to FNaF 2. I can summarize this game in 2 words. Holy shit! This sequel came out only a couple months after the first game, and basically everything is different. The original 4 animatronic count has been increased to 10, you got a bunch of new lore, and you've got 0 doors. In front of you is a dark hallway where anything can jump out. To defend yourself, you got a flashlight with some pretty shitty AA's powering it, and the decapitated face of one Freddy F. Fazbear. The F stands for fucker. In addition, there's more of a reason to check cameras now, because of this fucker. This is the puppet, and I am incredibly racist against the puppet. This fucker is just creepy, leave me alone. Anyways, flip up the camera and make sure you crank that music box or else he gets out, and you won't enjoy what happens if he does. Now, we might as well talk about the rest of these fuckers. First up, the hallway bitches. These guys appear in your hallway, and the only one that's actually probably going to be a threat is Foxy. Shine your light on him, and he's satisfied. Flash the fox so he doesn't kill you. This seems like sexual harassment. Segueing from that joke, the assholes who go in the vents. This is mainly the new animatronics like Toy Bonnie, Toy Chica, Balloon Boy, I hate Balloon Boy, and Mangle. See them in the side vent lights, throw on your Freddy Faz face until they fuck off. Next up, ye old bastards. The Wither animatronics will appear in your office and you need to throw on your facey Fazbear super quick so they don't kill you. They can even pull down your camera if you've had it up for too long. Overall, it's still balanced, but way more fast-paced and exciting than FNaF 1 was. And Night 6 of this game is probably my favorite night in the first 3 games. This one adds one more threat, Golden Freddy, the 10th animatronic. He was in FNaF 1, but just as a little Easter egg. In this game, he just fades in and out of your office, waiting to strike. This combined with the frantic phone guy call at the start of the night and the harder animatronic AI in general sets the tone for a challenging and stressful night, and I find it really fun. This is a great time, and I know this game is where the true fascination with the lore came from, but I'm not touching that. Go talk to Pat-Matt if you want to know about The Bite of 87! FNaF 3. People don't seem to like this one as much, but I've always really liked it. It took the 10 animatronics from the last game and cut it down to 1. Well, kinda. There's only one animatronic who can actually kill you. His name is Springtrap, and he's a motherfucker. The rest of the crew are just hallucinations who will fuck with your systems. Speaking of systems, let's talk about systems. Great segue right there. Your audio, which lets you lure Springtrap away from you and the cameras, your cameras themselves if this system goes off, goodbye vision, and your ventilation. This goes off, you'll start hallucinating even more and eventually not be able to see anything. You do need all of these systems working though. The audio is used to lure Springtrap away from you, but if he goes into a vent, you need to know which vent, which you need the cameras for. And seeing is usually a pretty big deal in these games, so ventilation is important too. Overall, I think the gameplay balance of keeping track of him on the cameras, rebooting offline systems, and sealing vents works quite well. It emphasizes the cameras a lot more than the last 2 games, which I really appreciate. Overall, I really like FNaF 3. Also, this game was the first time FNaF had a secret ending, and I love how it's handled in this game. There are a bunch of hidden minigames hidden within your office. Find them and you unlock secret minigames. But that's not even it. You also have to glitch these secret minigames to find a lost soul and give it cake to set it free. And the music and visuals really gives these games an unsettling feeling. Not scary, but more somber. Especially the theme for the minigame with Shadow Bonnie. It's such a good theme. It's calming but off-putting and almost feels remorseful. It's one of the most iconic tracks in the whole franchise for a good reason. Take a bit of a listen. But that's all I really have to say on FNaF 3. On to FNaF 4. And this is where FNaF really started changing. You can move now. Well, sorta. Instead of the animatronics coming up to the doors, you have to go to the doors yourself. And this game is also a lot more audio dependent, to the point where you can actually play the game without looking if you know what you're doing. Fuck, that ruins the vision joke I made in the FNaF 3 segment. Damn you, Scott Cawthon! Anyways, this is the last traditional FNaF game to release. It's these fucking abominations versus you, a scared little kid having a nightmare. This game always felt sadder to me, from the between night minigames telling the story of an afraid little boy getting bullied by his older brother, to the actual map of FNaF 4 being a child's bedroom but one where he feels unsafe. It's really different from the previous games, and the gameplay I think is good. Not the best the franchise has, but definitely enjoyable. Something I will give it credit for is the feeling of unease never really left me. With the other games, they would just lose their fear factor, but this one kept me second guessing basically everything I did, and I'll always respect that. For this game, you have to keep an eye, or more accurately an ear, out for Bonnie and Chica at the side doors, check the closet for Foxy, and get rid of the Freddles on the bed behind you, because if you don't, Freddy will want to come talk to you about your car's extended warranty. And when Night 5 comes, all of this is thrown out and you are faced with one enemy. I don't want to spoil it, but the bonus nights in this game are really cool. Time for Final Fantasy. Mangle Hunter? Persona 4 animatronics? I'm out of terrible RPG puns. FNaF World! What is this game? I, like it? I found when I played fun, but I really didn't play much of this. This game is kind of seen as a joke in the FNaF community, but it's really not bad. Give it a shot if you want Dead Kids Being Cute, the RPG. Anyways, next! You want me to fuck with your head? This is technically a minigame compilation. Mario Party, The Bite of 87. FNAF's sister location is usually hailed as one of the best games in the franchise, and to be honest, I agree. It's not my favorite, but it is really good. This is where the modern FNAF style began, with its more prominent stories and cheeky sense of humor when the game isn't being spooky, usually from this game's new companion, Hand Unit.
Welcome, Eggs Benedict.
And instead of sitting in a room doing the same basic stuff for the entire game, this one is more about going around and fixing shit. You're a technician, and you need to keep these newfangled funtime animatronics optional. And speaking of the fun times, these are my favorite animatronics in the entire franchise. Funtime Freddy is my boy, I love him. Now, I'll have to talk about this game in a different way, since its gameplay is completely different. So I'm going to walk through each night and talk about what makes it tick. Night 1 has no real threat. It's all about just introducing you to this underground bunker of misery. You walk around, zap some fools, and then go leave to eat popcorn. Moving on. This is where this game actually starts. This night involves you crawling under a desk to hide from a mannequin baby Chernobyl victim. After that, you crawl through a room trying to stay quiet because the ballerina has really good ears. This crawling part is genuinely one of the best parts in the game in my opinion. Then turn back on power while my boy Funny Fred tries to shove a tombstone up your ass. Night 3 is probably my favorite night. First, you crawl through Foxy's room using a flash beacon to see what's happening, but you can't use it too much. Then you get up close and personal with Funny Fred, touching him all over and taking off his clothes. I need therapy. I want to vomit. This is the worst night in probably any FNaF game. You have to keep these spring locks wound up as these little fucking shits that can burn in fucking hell crawl up to tickle your nipple. I hate this night, you hate this night, fuck off night 4. I hope you die in a fire. I'm not going to talk about this night outside of playing the Exotic Butters voice clip for you.
Exotic Butters.
Thank you. Moving on. This is kind of a cute concept. You have to make a pizza then deliver it to customers. There are different levels too. Like on the later levels, a Shadow Freddy spawns to block the pizza and you gotta dodge it. Only issue with this game, it's a bit buggy. Like, look at this. For a game this simple, it really shouldn't be this broken. Oh. Never mind. Yeah, what at first seemed to just be a fun little game where you ran your own little pizzeria, it turned out to be a full-fledged FNaF game. But before we get to our classic office gameplay, we do have this whole restaurant tycoon thing to look at. And honestly, this is absolutely adorable. You run your own Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, you can buy your own animatronics and put them on stage. Here we have my restaurant's star attraction, #1 crate, and no, I don't need anyone else. You can also buy attractions. Something that's really cool about these attractions, though, is you can actually play them. Basically, anything you can place in your pizzeria that isn't a robot has a fun little minigame. And sometimes these minigames are absolutely horrifying. Like this simple little Pac-Man clone allows you to see the murder of a young girl after her dog gets hit by a car. It's one of the darkest moments in the series, and it happens during a Pac-Man clone. Jesus, Scott. And now for this game's section of traditional FNaF gameplay. No cameras. Okay then. For this section, you have 2 vents beside you and a terminal. From this terminal, you have to order, advertise, and repair, all of which are just clicking a button and waiting. Now, depending on how you play this game, it's actually very possible that there will be no threat. But if you aren't a bitch and proceed with taking in the old animatronics from the back alley in the salvage sections, we'll talk more about those in a bit, you will have threats in these vents. You have a couple ways of defending yourself, however. From your terminal, you can scan the vents to see where they are, an audio decoy to lure them away from you, or switch to a silent ventilation system because your normal one is very loud. You can only do one of these at a time, however. You can also turn off your terminal and ventilation system, both of which create noise when turned on. However, you can't keep them off for too long. In the bottom right hand of your screen, you have your temperature meter. If this gets too high, you pass out and get cooked as bacon for Lefty and the crew. Overall, this is probably my least favorite traditional FNaF gameplay in the series. For me, the removal of cameras is really not a good thing. I also feel like no matter what I do, it's complete random chance if I'll ever win. If this game didn't have the really charming pizzeria sections and the salvage sections, this would be the worst game in the series. Earlier I mentioned the salvage sections, and yeah, these are pretty great to be honest. If you succeed in salvaging the animatronic, you get a hefty chunk of cash to spend in the tycoon section. This section consists of your boss recording whale noises on a cassette tape and telling you to play them at a serial killer stuck in a fursuit. This franchise is totally grounded. If the animatronics become too active, you have a taser to stun them back, but you can only use it 3 times before significantly reducing the worth of the salvage. It's honestly the most scary and tense part of the game in my opinion. These are a fun time. Now, I haven't been talking about the endings in this video really, but for this game, I'm making an exception. Because, wow. This is how you end a game. I cheated to record this. Basically, once you've beat the last night of the game, your boss gets on the phone and explains that this whole restaurant wasn't meant as a revival of Freddy's. It was meant to be the end. The 4 animatronics you salvaged are apparently the last ones that are still haunted. And this building was designed to burn them to the ground. It also turns out that your boss is the original founder of Freddy's, a guy by the name of Henry, meaning he also worked alongside the purple guy, also known as the serial killer trapped inside Springtrap. And when Henry sets the building on fire, he has some choice words for his old co-worker.
Although for one of you, the darkest pit of hell has opened to swallow you whole, so don't keep the devil waiting, friend.
Goosebumps. Genuine goosebumps the first time I heard that. Anyways, that's all I have to say on this game. Actually, as a little side note before we move on, at least on PC, this game was completely free and was basically made as a thank you to fans. It even says so in the credits. So, I just think that's kind of nice. fucking Super Smash Bros. Ultimate looking ass. Ultimate Custom Night. This is the final classic FNaF game. What I mean by that, it was the last one to be truly indie. It's 2D, made by one guy, and was completely free. This game took about 50 of the animatronics from the previous titles and allowed you to pick and choose which ones are active. Basically a do-it-yourself FNaF game, which is a really cool concept. You boot this game up, and wow, Scott Cawthon, you're a bitch. To be honest, this game is a really cool idea, and I can tell it really has a lot to it. But it's not my thing. For me, my favorite FNaF games use the same base mechanics in a lot of different contexts. Look at FNaF 2. You have two ways of defending yourself, your flashlight and your mask. These mechanics work together and have a lot of different uses. In this game though, you have so many different mechanics, and so many different characters that it's hard to keep track of. The individual challenges are fine enough, but stuff like 50-20 mode, yeah, no thank you. Not in a million years. Now, just like Pizzeria Simulator, this game on PC was totally free, which is really nice. Didn't stop me from buying both Pizzeria Simulator and Ultimate Custom Night on Switch for $10 each, even though they're both free on PC. I'm not bitter at all, thanks for asking! Oh, fuck me. It's time for my first major VR experience. While I've played some VR games before, specifically Beat Saber, FNaF VR Help Wanted was the first game I ever actually tried to beat with the help of my roommate's Oculus Quest 2. And can I just say, FNaF VR is genuinely fantastic and I absolutely hated playing it. Look, I'm a coward, and VR FNaF fucking terrifies me. Another thing, I can't handle VR well. I get nauseous and get a headache pretty damn quickly, so recording this was even more painful for me. But despite my fear, and my vomit, let's go through and put this game through its paces. It's also important to note that this script was written based on my experiences with this game in VR. But I don't have a good way to capture footage from the Oculus Quest 2, so the footage I recorded is from the non-VR version. But we'll talk about that later. This game starts up with basically saying that everything happened in the previous games was a complete lie. This isn't true, but it's a neat way to start. The game you're playing actually exists in Universe 2, which is also neat. Basically, the company behind Freddy's has gotten tired of saying their restaurants are only used to make orphanages less populated. So they created a fun VR game to poke fun at these urban legends of one William, man behind the slaughter, Afton, and rebrand themselves. It's actually really neat, and they mention repeatedly that this game you're playing is just a game, and something you shouldn't take seriously. They also use this concept to give us a bunch of minigames based on some FNaF games and iconic moments. Let's talk about these. This made me want to vomit, and I loved every second of it. That's a lie, I really didn't. This is genuinely really well done though. I only hated it because I don't enjoy horror. Basically, this is just a recreation of FNaF 1, but in VR. All the animatronics act exactly the way you'd expect, and it's just the first FNaF game, but in VR. And this fucking shit with the 89 feet tall animatronics walking past you in VR is fucking horrifying. I am 6'1" and felt practically dwarfed by Bonnie here. It was really scary. Anyways, that's all I got to say for this. Moving on. This is the same rough concept as FNaF 1 VR, but they changed a lot more with the FNaF 2 formula. First off, you don't have a battery with your flashlight anymore. Not a big deal in my opinion. A bigger change is that the withered animatronics aren't here? They're only here at a custom hard mode night? Really? That seems weird. Toy Freddy is still here and he works the way you'd expect, so the mechanic would work. They just chose to not have it for some reason. Another odd thing is they let you wind the music box in the Freddy Faz phase. This makes the game significantly easier, meaning this took probably the hardest FNaF game and turned it into the easiest. Other than that, it's FNaF 2, but in VR. Check the hallway for Foxy and Freddy, side vents for Chica and Bonnie, and keep the puppet's music box wound up. It's FNaF 2. Same thing as the last two, it's FNaF 3 recreated in VR. Something cool though is that they added a visual indicator of the vent right beside you that Springtrap crawls through, and you can actually see him crawling to come kill you. It's a really neat touch. Overall, good recreation. This is actually really cool. This is basically like Night 3 and Sister Location where you have to repair Funtime Freddy, expanded into a full set of minigames. You go through and repair the original 4 animatronics. They all have different problems that relate to them too, like Chica was banging around in the kitchen and picked up an infestation of cockroaches. First off, ew. Second off, neat. Also, these guys are fucking huge! You never really got a sense of scale in the previous games, but for this game you really get to see that Bonnie the Bunny could wipe the floor with Shaquille O'Neal. Anyways, these are really cool. Jesus fucking Christmas, no thank you! This mode consists of stuffing you in a shoebox with Satan, and God if you're claustrophobic, don't even try. I'm not claustrophobic, but after playing this, I'm really fucking considering it. This is one of the most uncomfortable parts of the whole game, but in terms of horror, it's one of the best. You have 4 gaping tunnels surrounding you where anything can stick its head through at any time. While dealing with either Mangle or Enter, you have to stick your face into these tunnels to do tasks, like hit buttons or attach gears to solve a puzzle. It's tight, tense, and anxiety-inducing. Now, I am fully aware that there's more to this game. There's a problem, though. I feel ill. I can't handle VR that well, so I really couldn't play most of this game and couldn't beat it. This game also has DLC, but I couldn't really play it because I don't want to vomit. However, there is something that can help me out here. After release, a non-VR version of this game came out, simply called FNaF Help Wanted. It's the same game, but with new controls so that VR isn't required. Let's talk about it. Yep, this is definitely the same game, so let's talk about the other chunk of content that this game has to offer. This also means that yes, I did have to buy this game twice. This video cost me over $150. I haven't eaten in weeks. Help me! Dark Rooms is a series of minigames all about shining a flashlight to defend from bitches. The Plush Trap, Balloon Boy, and Funtime Foxy modes in this section are all pretty fun. The Plush Trap and BB sections are based off of fun with Plush Trap in FNaF 4, and Funtime Foxy's game is based on Night 3 and Sister Location. These are pretty good. Now this, on the other hand, I swear, the developers googled the word fun, got offended, then made this minigame. It's awful. It's easily the worst part of the game. I don't understand how it can be this bad. I also don't understand why they brought it back in the DLC. God fucking damn it, what is wrong with you? Since FNaF 4 didn't have a true Five Nights recreation in this game, Night Terrors is kind of the stand-in. You have similar gameplay to FNaF 4 for 3 of these minigames, where you defend against Funtime Freddy, Nightmarion, and Nightmare Fredbear, and for the last one, you find yourself hiding in the FNaF 4 closet as Circus Baby tries to find you. When she spots you, close the closet, but you can't keep it closed for too long because the fucking plush babies from Dark Rooms and my nightmares come back, and how about you fuck off? Overall, this game converts surprisingly well to not being VR, and honestly, I prefer playing it this way. I was worried about how some of the mechanics would carry over, but basically everything works perfectly. Sure, there are a few sections where the faster control of the VR controllers would be nice, like in this hell, but it's still a great game, and we aren't even done yet because we also gotta check out the DLC. Okay, regardless of my thoughts on this DLC as a whole, this style is absolutely adorable. It's so cheesy, and I love it because of that. Now, with this DLC, we have a bunch of new minigames, and as I've already mentioned, this fucking garbage is back. This is off to a great start. Don't rant about Plushkin Patch, don't rant about Plushkin Patch, don't rant about— Why? Anyways, this mode has 3 minigames: Hell, Pirate Ride, and Corn Maze. Now, Pirate Ride is absolutely adorable. You're on a roller coaster ride and you have to shoot targets as Captain Foxy tells you a story about fighting the Kraken. And Corn Maze is just a pretty solid minigame. You're up against probably the most badass animatronic ever made, Grim Foxy. Stuck in a corn maze, you have to find a key and escape while escaping Firefox. And then there's this minigame that I'm not going to talk about, play, look at, or tolerate. For this section, you have 4 minigames. I like none of them. For hallway, you just slowly walk down a hallway avoiding the nightmare animatronics. This is boring. Build a mangle, you grab the parts the game tells you to. This is okay. Dreadbear. Okay, I love the style of this minigame. It's a parody of Frankenstein, but this mode kinda sucks. And Trick or Treat, you just gotta look through the windows and try to figure out what animatronic is gonna open the door to put their mask on. This section ain't great in my opinion. This is a twisted version of the FNaF 1 section. Instead of having doors to close, you have a bright light to scare the animatronics. See them at the doors or on the cameras, flash them. But with electricity, and not your dong. This is a pretty alright time, but I prefer the standard FNaF 1 section. To be honest, not the biggest fan of this DLC. It feels mostly like filler. I think Corn Maze is cool, the funky FNaF 1 section is okay, and the rest is just kind of eh. Anyways, we are finally done with Help Wanted. On to, wait, FNaF AR? Breaking news! This game exists! Going into this video, this was the game I had played the least. And I think that kind of goes for everyone. I hear no one talking about this game anymore. So let's see if we can figure out why. This game starts with a glitchy presentation about Fazbear Entertainment mailing you robots for reasons? Look, I know the internet has a fascination with Chica, so I'm not gonna ask why someone would order Fazbear robots. I'm just gonna hope that they are thoroughly cleaned for the next client. Anyways, this is the main gameplay of this game. You turn around looking for staticky areas in the room. You focus on these areas long enough and a robot charges you, and you gotta zap it in time to win. From what I've played, this was roughly the whole gameplay loop. You can get upgrades to give yourself some boosts, but overall, eh. I didn't play much of this. Going into this game, I thought the reason that most people don't talk about it was just it was a mobile game, and those are often forgotten. Now I think it's just because the game isn't that good. As a mobile game, it's too involved with the whole spinning around thing hunting for baddies to work well for simple pick up and play mobile gameplay, but it's just too shallow and relies way too much on the camera of your phone to work well on any other platform. But this game is free, so even though I didn't personally like it, I do recommend giving it a try. It's a cute novelty, but That's all I can really say. Now, moving on to the last game I'm talking about in this video, and probably the game you are looking forward to the most. Oh Jesus, why am I playing this on PS4? Yeah, FNaF Security Breach was kind of infamous for being a bit of a mess at launch. Now, apparently a lot of the problems on PS5 and PC have been fixed, but on PS4, yeah, this game is a choppy, blurry mess sometimes. However, due to the fact that in my neck of the woods in Canada, PS5s are practically impossible to find, I have to play this game on my trusty Spider-Man PS4 Pro. So, without further ado, let's dive into FNaF Security Breach. FNaF Security Breach is very unique compared to the other games. I mean, it starts with a lot more unwanted Freddy penetration than usual, and once we climb out of the sky, we can see that this is a wildly different experience. While FNaF VR was fully 3D, this is a full first-person experience. You have full control of your movement, which is actually a first for the mainline FNaF franchise. And this game doesn't take long to change even more stuff about this franchise. Instead of a small pizzeria, a bedroom, or a tight underground warehouse, we have a massive, somewhat open pizza mall thing called the Pizzaplex. As a little kid named Gregory, you and Freddy, who is good now for some reason, have to try to avoid the other animatronics and a security guard named Vanessa as you accomplish tasks to escape the Pizzaplex after getting locked in there. There are also more traditional sections and offices with security doors, and these are probably the most stressful part of the game for me. Now, let's talk about the actual meat and potatoes of this game. And, look, I'm not going to say this game is irredeemable. It's a game with glaring flaws. The amount of security bots are really annoying, animatronics that sometimes just show up right behind you, but also sometimes don't even see you if you run right in front of them, and overall, this game just lacks any real polish. Like, at launch, it was possible to beat this 10-hour video game in 3 minutes. But I found exploring the main areas of the Pizzaplex when I wasn't having terrible performance on PS4 really fun. Overall, this game just has a style that I love. The 1980s neon was just really charming to me. Does this game have flaws? Oh sweet Jesus, yes. But it was still really fun to me. Overall, the actual game is kind of mediocre, with some really polished sections that are really fun, but its style and environments really hold it together for me. But also, what the fuck, guys? How did you release this? Look, I had fun with this game, but also, I find it inexcusable how this game behaves sometimes. I don't have footage of it, unfortunately, but this game freezed around 7 times in the daycare section for me. Now, some of you may be going, well, it's your fault that you bought it on PS4. But here's the thing. I bought it. I gave you my money, and this, and this, and this are all inexcusable to me. If you got a powerful PC or a PS5, yeah, maybe check this game out. If you have a PS4 Pro, probably not. And if you have an original PS4, dear God, stay away. And well, that's it. This franchise has come a long way in under a decade. 7 games made by one guy in the Click Team engine, an RPG, a fully VR title, an AR game, and a full-fledged, somewhat open first-person game. 11 games in under 8 years. Yeah, I get why people got sick of this franchise, but personally, I've always loved these games. Now, for my end thoughts, I personally would call either FNaF 2, Help Wanted, or Security Breach my favorite. FNaF 2 is a tense, challenging experience that almost requires perfection, but is a really satisfying game. FNaF Help Wanted has a lot of content and a lot of classic FNaF gameplay with a bunch of new cool twists, and Security Breach is a buggy mess, but it's a damn fun buggy mess. Overall, this is a fun series with plenty of dark twists and turns that really give these games character that has always charmed me. But if you think this series is overdone, I fully understand. I like basically all of these games, but I could definitely see how it would get old for some people. Anyways, that's all from me. Catch you on the flip side.